The Clarence Valley Indian Myna Group is loosely started as a council program. The council we say drop the bundle. I don't know whether they quite dropped the bundle, but sorry, yeah, I'm getting away from speakers and I'm trying to, so I stand out in front of people, okay. So the council didn't really run with the program since about 2008, wasn't it? And the Clarence Valley Conservation Action were asked to pick up the slat. Now, I don't know how that was supposed to happen, but basically they gave us a list of trappers they were supposedly had out there, and we had to go and find something like 120 traps that were supposedly out there in the Canberra Valley. It didn't happen. We managed to locate about 40, most of which were in pretty bad shape, and that's where we started from. Our biggest problem, of course, to start with was locating traps, and once we'd located them, we had a large number of traps that were pretty near useless. So we then started the education side of it. We'll come back to traps again in a little bit. We tried to set up a display stand, which we take around to most of the markets, the local markets we find to be very good to work with. We've got to find that if you want to get the public in, you've got to have something that's attractive, something that's interesting, and you've got to have plenty of stuff available. Here's a series of our market displays, some taken there at the council displays in the weeds section. The first one on the top there, hang on, there's a pointer here somewhere, complicated one. That one there I think is taken with the Clarence Valley Council's weed department. The rest are taken at various markets around the valley. We find this to be a very good way of getting people interested in it. We don't necessarily get trappers out of it. If we think we've done a market display and we get one or two trappers or one or two even potential trappers, we've done real well. But in general, we'd get 40 or 50 people come through it, talk to them about it, and quite a few of them will come back to you later on. Publicity is the biggest and the hardest thing to get. We've only got 2 local newspapers up there, and we compete pretty heavily with a whole lot of other groups around there for space on those newspapers. One in the middle is a very local newspaper, hence the large article there, and that's an early one, the Daily Examiner. A couple of pictures there. We've had various releases and stuff from there on. Publicity is hard to get. We also run workshops. That's a workshop at Yamba, which we did, which was a very successful one. But even they could be a flop. We ran one in Grafton itself, where we thought we would get probably 40 or 50 people. We probably had 4. An absolute waste of a day. But you've got to keep running and you've got to keep throwing it at them. So markets are probably a much better way than we find than newsletters. Volunteers are your key. There's a couple of our key volunteers there. The guy in the middle there, he's probably our best trapper, has been trapping since pre-us, I think about 2006. He's pulled in his 1,000th bird this year. The guy in question works full-time, and as well as everything else, with the Indian Myna side of it, he's an active cane-toad trapper. He goes out most weekend nights, picking cane toads out of the, because we're in a cane toad area as well as else. But those sort of people are hard to come by, really. And we've still got plenty of Indian Mynas around. Those are 2 photos taken within the last couple of months since we left up there, so there's plenty of Mynas around. That one's just out of Grafton. And no, sorry, the bottom one's out of Grafton, that one's out of Palmer's Channel. So there's plenty of Mynas out there to get yet. Click it again, Dylan. There's our friendly miner. He's not going to talk to us. Click it again.
I'm trying.
Doesn't work? Okay. That's supposed to be an Indian Myna doing his little thing. That's our caller. Now we're back to traps. Outside we've got one of our traps on display with the detachable transfer cage. We find we've got a lot of people in our area, little old ladies who are really interested in their birds, who really hate having the Indian Mynas come in and take over, but there's no way in the world could ever get any of them to actually touch a myna. They just have a fear of the bird themselves. So with this approach, if we can get the birds in through the cage, into the trap, then they can just open the doors internally there, walk around the other side of the cage, cover this up before they do, walk over the other side of the cage, give it a little bit of a shake, and the Indian Mynas will rush immediately across into the small cage. They can close the doors from externally and pick up that little trapping cage or transfer cage, leave it wrapped up, put it in the car and take it to one of our gassing stations. And we found this was the best thing that ever happened to us, because we could then suddenly get these little old ladies in who you just couldn't get involved because they didn't want to handle it. We got a lot of people up there who are cockies and farmers who have no trouble at all, but the little old ladies in the retirement villages in similar areas, we've got a lot of retirement area up there, just don't get involved unless we can give them something real like that. So once the cage is taken off, transferred, it simply then ends up in this little plastic box which fits exactly to it. That's a CO2 bottle there from My Kegs Online, I think. 3 minutes gassing with that and everything's put away. It's the best thing we ever did. That and the fact that we've got some trappers who are willing to look after their next door neighbour or their friend across the road's birds and euthanise them for them with cervical dislocation. But that's the way we go nicely now. Check it again, Dan. Trap building was, as everybody said today, the biggest problem we ever started with. The ones we got from the council were in a pretty bad state and they weren't real good built to start with. I started repairing them, we started repairing them initially, but it was just got too much for us. Fortunately for us, the council was willing to supply us the wire and they put us in touch with A, NVIDE, B, Juvenile Justice in Grafton, both of which we spent time with. We trained their people to do them. And look, really, we spent more time training the people to do it than we actually got back in traps. Then we got in touch with Nortec, or Nortec got in touch with us, Nortec being a local employment service up there who literally provides work for the dole, if it really is work for the dole these days. We got a couple of guys there who are really, really interested in the program, really interested in the traps, and they build what we consider to be the best trap we've ever seen. They're consistent. We can put one trap together with another trap. We don't have to worry about whether those two came from NVIDE, that one came from council. We can just put two traps together and they always marry. They're perfect. There's no broken wires. There's nothing on them. We don't have to touch those traps again. All we do with them probably is put a bottle and a feeder in them and a label on the tag, and we can take them out to people and know they're fine. They're the best thing that ever happened to us. What have we got there to follow? Oh yeah, trapping. Yes, we keep detailed trapping details. We use MynaScan as well as this, which is a free program you get off the internet. It's literally GeoTrap, and literally I upload a Excel website to that program, and it produces that details for me whenever and however I want it. So that shows the trapping right through the whole of Clarence Valley. We do similar, is that trapping or sightings? Yeah, that's trapping. And we do a similar one for sightings. We're getting a few birds now that are actually trap shy, and we've really got to start looking, I think, for some sort of innovations. We've been looking at what we get out here. This guy in question, the guy there with Laura, he traps in one of our areas up there, and he's the most patient man I've ever seen. He cleans out all the Indian miners in his territory every year. The first time we took our market display out to there, we were told there weren't any Indian miners in their town. This is Paulo. And somebody finally said to us, no, because Bruce traps them all. Bruce has got a series of traps through his yard. You can see the decrepit old traps there. They're typical of the council ones we got. But most of his traps, he traps with this. It's simply a square box, no bottom on it, a bit of wire and a string, a bit of stick and a string that runs to his room. And he sits in there playing jigsaws. And when the Indian miners come along, and he's got enough under there, he won't just catch one, he's got to catch 6 at a time, he reckons, so it's not worth the hassle. When they come along and pull the string, if something else comes along, he jiggles the string. And he reckons all these native birds know that when he's jiggling the string, they shouldn't be there, so they'll leave the stuff alone. I don't know whether that's the way to go to the future. I think it's the past. But it works. Look, he catches 40 and 50 birds a year. This year, he was getting really, his wife was getting really concerned because he wasn't going to go away at Christmas time until he caught all the miners in the area. They come there between September and December, and he just gets them and goes home. So that's Bruce. Yeah, as you say, you can have native birds or you can have Indian miners, but you can't have them both. So that's just about it for us, I reckon. If we can help anybody in any way, just let us know. Any questions, we'll follow on from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.